plans for good and not for disaster. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans for good and not to harm you, to give you a future and a hope. To give you a future and a hope. When you pray, I will listen. If you look for me with all your heart, you will find me. When you pray, I will listen. If you look for me with all your heart, you will find me. I will be found by you. I will be found by you.
Praise the great I am, giving honor to the Son, his will be done. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to pray to you that your will is done. Not only that, we want to thank you for everything that you've done, for your protection, for your love, and for your guidance. The title of this live, and it's going to be a brief live, is Principalities and Territories. And so I had an experience yesterday where I went into a territory in a principality in a suburb in the city that I live in because I needed to stop at a store. And from the moment that I pulled into the plaza of this suburb, it was chaos. Chaos that I didn't really put everything together until I actually left. From the moment I pulled in, where there were children walking in both all the way across the road where traffic was headed in my direction or the opposite direction. They were just walking as if it were a sidewalk, and just different things. And it was almost like snapshots or screenshots that I was observing things that were going on, and I was actually kind of surprised by it all. And when I went into the store, uh, there were many different entities in that store. When I say that, people who were hmm, possessed, oppressed, and influenced in that store. And so um, it was an interesting situation because what it was training. It was the father training me. The father will let you see things if you pay attention to those things. And so when I went into the store, there there was just, I'm not going to go into the details of the situation, but the long and short of it is this, is that the evil one's territory has been increased. And what I mean by that, it's not just physical territory. His territory is taking over people's bodies and minds and their souls and inhabiting them. Okay, we call that demon possession. Whether it could be the person behind the counter ringing you out, the person standing in line behind you, or even some of the young adults that are there. And what the father was showing me was that these entities, they know who we are um while we're standing there, and their aim is to disrupt your harmony, your peace of mind. It is to try to goad you into directions that you shouldn't be going in. And they also know who one another are. They can identify each other. They know. So when I say gang up on, they set in play a series of systematic circumstances. Like, I don't know if you know what, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie with Denzel Washington, The Fallen. It was where the demon was jumping from person to person. But this particular situation that I'm talking about are different people who have different demons inside them. Because remember, Legion had many, it was a legion of demons. And so the things that they were doing, it was almost like they were gravitated towards me. And I was standing in line trying to check out. And it was just interesting the different series of events that happened. But um the father was just showing me, what was going on. Once I and the final part of it is this. So it was the store I was in, I guess they no longer give out pennies because they're no longer making them or whatever. And so I was expecting my change back, and he looked up at me and said, with the about the the nastiest tone that you could have, uh, "We don't give out pennies. There's a sign on the door." And so I had to gather myself because it did catch me. Because first of all, he was looking at me in one of the meanest ways that I've seen somebody just look at somebody, right? And then, because I didn't know this person, never met him before, but he was ringing me out. And as I walked toward the door, after the series of situations that I had occurred, the first thing that came to my mind was ghetto. And I did. I just said it out loud. I was like, "Wow, this store is ghetto now." As I walked out the door. But that's not really what the situation was, because I've had to pray and evaluate the series of situations that occurred. And so that area used to be beautiful. It used to be nice. It used to be um somewhere you could feel safe going into, so to speak. But now it has become a concentration of people who are inhabited. They've given themselves over to evil. Um, I was asking the Father to explain these things to me. I went back to the common courtesies. Like we all talk about, you could talk about kindergarten, right? And you could say, um, there's some basics that they used to teach in kindergarten, taking your turn, not jumping the line, not doing certain things, just what we considered common courtesy. But then the set apart spirit set me straight, and it was like, why are you expecting demons not to behave as demons? It was basically what was said to me in the spirit was that my expectations were too high. Um and that the only expectations that I should be having are of the Father and the expectations that he set upon me. So I was pondering this from yesterday to this morning, and it was interesting to see it because it was all kind of stuff going on yesterday. Um I had stopped at a chocolate place. I'm not going to advertise for them. And I stopped and got me some chocolates yesterday just because I was just relaxing or whatever, just chilling, going where I wanted to go, doing what I wanted to do. But I didn't realize I had drove up right after a hit and run had occurred. And like I said, this is a nice area. These two areas are only like 5 minutes apart in a car. And that happened, and then it was other things going on. So what I'm gonna say also is, not only are there territories and principalities, but the Father also corrected me about yesterday. So as soon as he corrected me about yesterday, last night when I got home, there was a video by another. I think it's the Way TV. Their channel's called the Way TV, and they talked about the origins of Mother's Day, and they nicknamed, what is it? The Roman Catholic Church, RCC, they call it. So they went all the way back pre what you consider the Messiah being born, and the origins of it are pagan also. So everything that I was seeing, because I had already said I did not want to be like, I didn't want to be at the restaurants tomorrow. I didn't want to go out. And then you have to kind of understand where I'm at. I wasn't necessarily attempting to observe Mother's Day, but I'm on vacation for 2 weeks, so to speak. Okay. So this time is being used to be closer to the Father. And with that, he had the opportunity to teach me some things and let me see some things that were happening. So, what I want to say about that is that the lesson that I got from it is to, and I already react less and less to people or involving myself with people because the territory, he is definitely expanding his territory. So I'm going to go into the chat for a moment because when I was saying that, greetings to anybody here listening. Yes, the demons will close ranks on a person of light. Yes. And you will see it. And these people did not know each other because it was a situation where it was a teenager. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, The Passion. And there was a scene where they had these little kids, but the little kids were really demons and they started uh, attacking Judas. But those same kind of situations can happen to you, and you're not a Judas. And you need to be prepared spiritually, mentally to rebuke those things. Um, this was a growing moment for me. It was not because usually when I have things like that happen, I begin to how can you internalize? In other words, I don't shut down to the point. It's not about fear. I stop and start really being observant as to what is going on around me, who it is, so you're not turning your back on somebody crazy, or you know what I mean. But we need to be, as Miss Mary says, have our heads on a swivel. Um, it's just weird because the more that territory and these principalities are being expanded, we're going to have to, and that's the other thing the Father was telling me. This is not a place you want to come to anymore. You don't want to come here anymore. And even after I came out of the store, after that encounter, it was a whole nother set of children over to and they were in the street again. Now, this place has sidewalks that encompass it. But I had to drive down the aisle of the parked cars in order to avoid these children in the street. And, I just started praying. When I started praying, it says to always pray. So I'm just, I'm talking, and praying and like, Father, what's going on? What's happening? I've had in 5 minutes time, I've had all these different encounters. There's groups of kids here, and the 3 people in the store, and this other different group of kids out here. And that's what the Father explained to me, that territory has been expanded, and we want to call it people who lack home training, but it goes further than that when you really look at it, because there's lots of people who didn't have good parenting. They came from households who had shortfalls, but they chose light instead of darkness. They chose right instead of wrong. They chose to do well, regardless of their circumstances. They chose the Father instead of Satan. And so what I was seeing yesterday was interesting. It kind of caught me aback because I, like I said, I'm on vacation and I'm just chilling. That's my goal, is to just, I really don't want anything I don't want to do. I'm doing a staycation. I don't know if you ever heard of one of those, but that's what I'm doing. And the goal is to really just be more connected to the Father. And I said, this is going to be peaceful. It's going to be, and they didn't steal they may, let me put it this way, about, they may have stolen about maybe 10% of my joy, put it that way. But the other 90%, I was just like trying to figure out what in the world just happened. And so that's what I have to say. We're at a point where we're going to have to choose the territories that we go visit. We're going to have to do some staycations and just be closer. Number one is to connect with the Father. If you're disconnected, reconnect. And I'll say that I'm not disconnected from the Father, but sometimes life circumstances kind of get us off balance from, our normal, what we would consider our normal functioning. Um, as soon as you rise up, you pray, as soon you read your Bible. Sometimes life circumstances get us knocked off of those things, and we have to pray to get them back on. So this is a good opportunity for me because I am a caretaker, so they're off on vacation, and I am on vacation, a staycation, a reconnection, rededication, relaxation, staycation. And so yes, and don't forget to put on the full armor. And that's part of putting on the full armor cuz you put that, what is it? Do you remember all of them? I think it's like the belt of truth or the sword of truth, something like that. You have the helmet, the sword, the sandals, the belt. And I think, basically, and don't forget that we can call on the Father like immediately. It's like if that situation were to have escalated to a situation, or somebody may attack you, you can always call on the Father. And I have found I've been in situations before, unfortunately, they were like high school, when you have uh children who haven't been parented in high school, you get attacked, or people call themselves being bullies, but you can call on the Father. And even as adults, the increasing evil that we see, we're going to have to really, really stay connected to the Father. So that's really all I was coming on to do, a short live, because I think I was at the conclusion the Father wanted me, the set apart spirit had for me. And the main things were to, my expectations were too high of people. And that's why I was disappointed yesterday. And so the disappointment came in because you're in an establishment. Your expectation is not for people who are um, in the service industry um, to behave that way. And the reason is because um, I spent 30 years in banking. And the things that I see today, we would have been fired for. Like some of those things are like were like immediate termination. Just, and not that you did anything like heinous. It could be we were required to smile. We were required um to leave our problems. What did my one boss say to us in a meeting, that when we come to work we leave home at home, and when we go home we leave work at work, something like that. And so um she also used to say, we're actors here. Even if you're not feeling it, you still got to do it. So we were required to do those things, but now we don't see those things. So I think my expectations were too high because that's how I was trained, is that when you're in the service industry, that you are, I mean, I understand people have problems, you know what I'm saying? um but that's what the Father told me. He's like, your expectations are too high, especially for the times that we are in 2026. And as O McMoney's t-shirt says, I think, is it every day you wake up you figure what chapter of Revelation are we living today, or something like that. And it's really true. um, Not that I want it to be, but and I'm not a scary person, and I'm not scared. I'm not fearful, and I'm not afraid, but I'm an acknowledgeable, not acknowledging that this is what's happening. This is what's going on. And I just wanted to come on and encourage, um, but not only to encourage, but to warn that, I'll be spending a whole lot of time, uh, fewer and fewer in stores. And even and it's increasing, and it happened to me, I think, what was that, a week and a half ago. I was checking out again in a store, and it wasn't, and this customer, she comes up behind me, she didn't have anything to purchase, but I had several things I had purchased, and she begins touching my purchases, like she's taking her finger touching my purchases. And I'm like, what is she doing? I'm saying this to myself, trying to put hexes on my stuff. And the even the girl at the register was like looking at her like, what's going on with you? What's wrong with you? And so I'm sitting there composing myself so I don't say anything that is unbecoming a child of the father. And so what did come out of my mouth was, my mother taught us not to touch things that are not ours. And I looked dead at her when I said it, you know. And the after the lady, somebody called her to so she could go to another register. I guess she wanted postage stamps. So the lady at the register was like, "What's wrong with her?" She was like, "I wasn't going to say anything if you didn't say anything." And I said, "I understand why you can't say anything, cuz number 1, you're at your job. I understand that." I said, and I just told her, I said, "But that was kind of weird." you know. And so when begun to have these kind of encounters, because they can see our light. If you are a child of the Father, they can see your light. They know who you are. And the set apart spirit will tell you and identify them. And we're going to have to start using the word rebuke a lot more. I do truly believe through these situations that keep occurring. I don't feel picked on. I feel as though they are training. We are in a war. And that's when I'm going to go. That was the other subject I wanted to speak on when you speak of territory. So when you're in battle, the goal is to capture the enemy's territory, capture as much territory as possible. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go out and capture territory, but that's what the evil one is doing. That's what Satan and his people are doing. They are capturing territories. And the city I live in, I grew up here. I know the suburbs. I spent a lot of time in the suburbs to get out of the city, but now these things are occurring in the suburbs. So it doesn't matter what socioeconomic um, situation the city is in, it doesn't matter what color people are. Um, you need not try to guess what's going on with somebody by the color of their skin. Because, as again, one of Miss Mary's favorite sayings is all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And so you cannot judge a person by their skin color. You need to ask the set apart spirit who this person is and are they one of the fathers or not. That's what it boils down to. So when I said about talked about these territories, the principalities and the things that are going on, we need to understand that a territory is not just land, it is not just a location, because we were made in the Genesis, we were made from the earth, correct? And then when they bury people, they say, is it ashes to ashes, dust to dust? So we are territory. And so, I can't remember the particular scripture. Is it not Japheth? Enlarge my territory. So when the enemy is talking about enlarging his territory, he's talking about not only taking over areas, but he's doing it is that he's taking over people. He is taking over people who have given themselves over to sin, who have rejected the Father, and who are have chosen to do evil. And I'm going to go into the this chat is like a lot of people in it. Hold on. Yeah, okay, so I just looked outside to see what that's the quote. I just looked outside to see what chapter of Revelation we're in. And greetings, VD Pearson. This is confirmation for me. Greetings to you. And being an army vet, the full armor brings to my mind memories of being in full battle rattle. Yes. Belt of truth, load carrying belt holds your extra ammo, water, canteen, flashlight, and poncho. And so I don't know about you, but sometimes when we watch the news, I'm sure you've seen this before, somebody that's gone on a shooting rampage, and they take that photo, you can tell that they're demon possessed. Then a lot of people who have done those types of heinous things, they don't have a memory of what they've done. That's because how demonic spirits operate is they're waiting for moments to take full control of somebody. So that person may not have a memory of of what they've done. Okay. And so Um, a lot of people are walking around unaware that they're being led by demonic spirits. They're either in full possession. I know you've seen it on the street before. They're either highly influenced. What do I always say? Possession, oppression, or influence. Okay, I think those are like the three levels. So, and I've encountered actually people who were um full blown, and one person in particular, and that's when I was doing the Bibles and Blankets ministry. And I just started telling him, I used to, what I used to do is I had Bibles. If the person accepted the Bible, it was for homeless people. And if they accepted the Bible, there was actually money in it. And so, but there was this one particular man that I will never forget, that I began to talk to him, and he was homeless. And when I looked up, he had snake eyes. When I say snake eyes, I mean exactly that. They were still black and white, like the white of his white, but the shape of them was different. So I began to tell him that God loved him and he didn't want him in that particular state. And I began to pray for that man, and his eyes actually changed. Um, I have to say that was intimidating for me. It wasn't, it was, but it was still training. So we have to be aware of the things that are going on, that are happening, and we can't look at it as the television wants us to look at it, as movies want us to look at these things, because the Father will begin to show you things for a reason. If he's showing you something like that, he's showing you something like that so that you can be aware and go into prayer. He's not showing you things like that to make you fearful or afraid, but he's showing you things like that so that at that moment you can put on your full armor, and then you go into prayer. That's what you're doing. And so you can call for help if you do feel afraid, because I think I may have a little more um practice or training in that area through life experience. But we all need to know that the Father is the only person that can be with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 364 days a year. And so I think that's why the Father wanted me going to do a live. I just meant for it to be short, but I wanted to be encouragement. I wanted to reinforce the fact that the territory of the enemy is increasing. And the Father said that there will only be a remnant. So let's be part of the remnant and be encouraged, because the Father loves us. And it says he only chastises or corrects those that he loves. So if you're not being trained by him, if you're not being corrected by him, then you have to question, have you chosen to be one of his? Because it's not a matter, everybody has free will. The Father doesn't force anybody to do anything. So as we encounter these people who have chosen the opposite, you can still pray for them. Um, but you also have to be as wise as a serpent and as harmless as doves. And with that, I'm going to say, um, put on your full armor. Thank you so much for that, old McMoney. And then we will be having set apart service this Wednesday at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time if you want to join. I think this is the last Wednesday, and I use the heathen name for the day of the week for translation purposes. When we go into the next month, they're all going to be on Fridays. Oh, and one last thing I want to talk about before I end. The leader of America has called for a prayer service for the 15th and the 16th, which I believe is like Friday and Saturday. The only prayer I'm going to be doing is prayer against that, because that is not the Father's calendar. You need to know that it is a satanic ceremony. Anything on the Gregorian calendar, everything on the Gregorian Julian calendars is Satan, are all satanic ceremonies that have been instituted uh millennia ago. Okay. They're all idolatrous, Satan worshiping, child sacrificing, human sacrificing days. And so just know that, please, just pray against it, because they're also that is also another ceremony where they're trying to increase territory. And just to give you a little more background in regard to that, every Saturday and every Sunday is not the day of rest. And this is why the Father's biblical calendar never changes. When you get into the Father's biblical calendar and you understand it, it never changes. What happens and makes it appear that the Father's biblical calendar changes is that they took the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar and they basically overlaid the Father's calendar with it. Number one, on the biblical calendar, there are no names. There's no Wednesdays. It's just 1 through 7. 1 through 7 for the days of the week, 1 through 12 for the days of the month. And they try to say that it's so they're really trying to bring in the Israeli state. And I've been finding out that um, every president has signed this initiative. They renew this covenant every year. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that till recently. That this particular situation that's going on the 15th and 16th, they renew this every year. Everything on the Gregorian Julian calendar is some kind of covenant renewal for the evil one, for Hasatan, for Satan. Um, but just in case, if you are interested in getting I have a free worship book. This worship book is, McMoney. I think it's 133 pages. You can either get it by PDF or you can get it in the mail, and I will mail it to you. I mailed out a whole, I don't want to use the word brew of them, a whole lot of them during the new year. Um, I can send it to you via PDF. Um, McMoney, if you could put the email address in there, but you do have to email me for it. But once you learn, it's really easy. This is what I'm going to say about the calendar. It's really simple. If you can count from 1 to 364, if you can count from 1 to 12 and 1 to 7 for the weeks, the new year begins during the equilux, not the equinox. And that's why they do all this spring forward. They actually cover up the Father's New Year with St. Patrick's Day, just to let you guys know. So, with that being said, if you don't know or if you're unaware that the equilux and what the equilux means is this, that the shift over happens naturally with the Father's elements, with the sun, moon, and the stars. What it means is there's 12 equal hours of day and there's 12 equal hours of night. That is what the equilux means. If you look up the actual definition of equinox, the equinox is never ever equal. It's off by a few minutes. But the equilux heralds in the Father's new year. It's very simple. The Father doesn't try to confuse us or give us things that are going to be hard to do or understand. So during the equilux, it's basically the shift from winter to spring. So you'll no longer have more night than you have day. The equilux ushers in more day than night. Now, doesn't that make sense since we're children of light, right? So the winter time represents death, and then the springtime represents renewal and new life. And so it's the equilux that ushers in the springtime, and it ushers in the Father's biblical new year. The new year is not in January. That is the representation of Janus, which is the two-faced god of the Romans. Okay. And so when I say that they overlaid the Father's Bible, and that's why it appears as though the biblical Bible moves, it does not. So again, if you're interested in that, you can email me at eloaa2008 at gmail.com, eloa2008 at gmail.com. It is totally free. If you don't want to receive anything after that, you don't have to. Um, you don't have to get a newsletter or anything. If you just want the calendar, that's fine with me. My job is to give this information out free of charge because it's important. And that's it. And once you have it, when I say it's a worship book, it's 133 pages because it not only has the calendars, it has these all the supporting scriptures that support the Father's calendar. So it has anything associated with um, the Father's calendar. So with that being said, and also, if something were to happen, the other reason the Father had me do that, if something were to happen with the internet, if we get disconnected, because they're still doing this war stuff. I don't know if you've studied any wars, but in times of war, communication is usually the first thing the enemy cuts off. We don't know what they have planned, and I'm not saying this to be fearful. I'm telling you so that you're prepared. And the worship book will enable you not to be not to have to be connected to the internet in order to know when Passover is. You don't have to be connected to the internet. You will be able to know where you're at on the Father's calendar on your own, all by yourself with you and your family, or if you are alone, all by yourself. That is the reason the Father had me do it. I think it was about 2 years it took me to put that together from prayer and fasting. It wasn't just something that I haphazardly put together. It was a lot of revelation, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into it. And it is very important for you to be able to be um, in the Father's purpose, pattern, and plan, and His word, His will, and His way. So, all right. So, as I end here, um, again, if you're not sure you believe in God and you're here on the live, all you have to do is ask Him if He really exists. Ask him to prove it to you, and he will. He did that for me. He'll do it for you. Don't turn to the left or the right. Stay on the Father's path. I love you, but the Father loves you first and best. He said that before you were formed in the womb, he knew you. And if you have any other further questions, you can also email me at that email at eloa2008 at gmail.com. Going into the chat, I'll be praying for the awakening and the unity of the children of Israel. I'll be praying for the Father's will and the destruction of Babylon. Yeah, the will. We definitely are in Babylon. That's for sure. Truthfully, I think the whole world has been made Babylon because they copied everything that America did. um, you can't travel to another country nowadays without seeing American influence. There's really nowhere you can go. I mean, every country has a McDonald's. Every country has, I don't know about Burger King, but yeah, every country. So America has to be Babylon because everything, from the rap music to, you got kids in China doing rap and in Indonesia. I mean, it's just crazy. But anyway, but all right, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. And again, if you're interested, we will be having our seventh day of rest service and worship service on Wednesday at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, walk in the Father's word, will, and way, and have a great day.